Welcome to the 5150 style guitar methods. I'm Mutz Marsh, the Eddie Van Halen geek. In this channel, I explain how I understand and apply the Eddie Van Halen technique. My guitar brain is 95% Eddie Van Halen. That's why I call my guitar style the 5150 style, after Eddie. I have an overwhelming number of research notes on Eddie Van Halen on the shelves in my room. It's safe to say that these notes represent my deep love for Eddie Van Halen. My role here is to turn all of that into videos and share them with the world. My attempt is to stock the playing techniques I've learned from Eddie so that I can draw from them and use them as my own phrases at any time. There are no tutorials here to help you play Van Halen songs. This is a method for building improvisation that only I can do worldwide. I'm not sure if this will be of any help to everyone, but I would be happy if you could watch it, just to pass the time. Everyone, stay tuned. This time I'd like to talk about Eddie Van Halen's exceptional handling of the low strings. What I mean by handling the low strings is essentially how he uses downward bends. Eddie often employs a special trick when playing phrases that involve downward bending on the low strings. In this lesson, I'll focus on that technique and break it down for you. First, watch this video. It's not an exact replica, but I've tried to recreate a bit of Eddie's playing. The key point is this phrase. Did you catch that? Now let's analyze the structure of the phrase. The three notes on the E string and the A string 5th fret from lowest to highest are E, G sharp, B, and D. When you stack these notes vertically, they form the exact structure of an E7 chord. So this phrase is essentially based on an E7 chord. That means it's a great phrase to have in your arsenal for E-blues playing. Since it starts from the open low E string, it naturally fits into E-blues phrasing, making it easy to understand. Now that we've covered the key and chord structure, let's get into the real focus of this lesson. Since we're talking about handling the low strings, the key point here is how to play the A string 4th fret. The half-step bend on the 4th fret is approaching the 7th of the E7 chord from a half-step below. Instead of simply pressing down on the 5th fret, bending from the 4th fret gives it a more rock-oriented, aggressive feel. This technique is very similar to the opening of "Oh Pretty Woman." Let's try it out. What do you think? Not only is the bending technique identical, but the first 4 notes are exactly the same. Now, back to phrase 1. The most important thing to focus on here is the moment of transition from the half-step bend on the 4th fret to the fretted 5th fret. Even though the note bent up on the 4th fret and the note fretted on the 5th fret are the same pitch, switching to the fretted note makes the melodic details stand out more clearly. Of course, you could play the entire phrase using only bends on the 4th fret, but at this speed, it's really difficult to maintain clear articulation using only bends and bend releases. Personally, I'm comfortable with bending upward using my ring finger, but downward bends using my index finger feel completely opposite, making it really hard to control both movements equally, at least for me. That's why Eddie's approach suits me perfectly. It's an excellent idea. The key to playing this phrase well is to time the hammer-on to the 5th fret perfectly as you release the bend on the 4th fret. If you get the timing right, you'll naturally achieve a smooth legato feel, so practice it repeatedly until it feels natural. After that, you pull off to the opener string, then hit the G note on the low E string, 3rd fret, followed by another pull-off, and finally resolve to the root note on the D string. This phrase has a great mix of major and minor tones, giving it that classic bluesy flavor. Now watch this next video. This is from Best of Both Worlds. Did you notice that I played the same phrase in the middle of the riff? As you might have already noticed, in this case the phrase is based on an A7 chord. Again, since the phrase starts from the open A string, it fits perfectly into A blues phrasing, so keep that in mind. Since the technique is exactly the same as phrase 1, I won't go over the details again. However, when playing a phrase like this in a song with a solid groove, like Best of Both Worlds, it's important to match the phrase length with the available beat so it fits naturally. Both of the phrases we covered rely on open strings and 2 hammer-ons to create a tight, rhythmic feel. This technique is also found in the riff of Finish What You Started.
Okay, 2 seconds. Sings out of tune. No, it's not. The guitar is great. Eddie's just playing real bad. The tools.
You could play the 5th fret note using the open string on the next higher string, but using 2 hammer-ons on the same string keeps the movement simpler and makes it easier to lock into the rhythm. Try incorporating this into your own riffs and songwriting. Now back to downward bends on the low strings. After realizing that phrases 1 and 2 don't rely solely on downward bends, but also use hammer-on combinations, I started wondering, maybe Eddie uses this technique in other places too? So I went back and checked some songs I've always struggled with, and bingo. For example, the intro of The Dream Is Over from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge also uses this technique. Did you catch it? The downward bend followed by a hammer-on, then a pull-off, is exactly the same as in phrases 1 and 2. Also, the intro of Fire in the Hole from Van Halen 3 follows the same pattern. The original recording uses a trans trem to shift everything up a whole step, but if you ignore that and play it normally, it looks like this. Again, did you notice? It turns out this phrase has the same structure as phrases 1 and 2, an awesome discovery. It made the riff so much easier to play. For years I struggled to capture the right nuance using only bends, but this revelation was a game changer. In the end, it took me years to correct this mistake, but in reality, I'm sure there are still plenty of other techniques and phrases that need to be revised. When I look back now, my old transcriptions are full of errors. However, nothing saddens me more than seeing Eddie's playing misunderstood and misrepresented. That's why, in my 5150 style, whenever I say, "This is how Eddie played it," I make sure to have solid evidence to back it up. If I can't do that, I always make it clear by saying, "This is how I interpret it." So, rest assured. This time, we focused on a small but effective trick in phrases involving downward bends on the low strings. I hope you found it useful. If you like it, please give us a high rating and subscribe to my channel. High ratings and channel subscriptions are my best motivation. Best regards. I will continue to upload useful information for rock guitarists, so don't miss it. Again, what I show in the 5150 style video is just an example of how I understand and utilize the Eddie Van Halen technique. There are 10 different interpretations of the technique for every 10 people, so it's up to you how you use what you learn. It may sound contradictory to say this when I am in the position of posting videos on YouTube, but to be clear, the most important part of music and guitar cannot be learned from YouTube videos. It is important to be willing to use your ears to learn and to be generous with your time. It is very important to feel the nuance and feeling with your ears. Even if it is wrong, it is very important to spend time thinking, how is it played? and try this and that, and it is very important to spend that time. There are no shortcuts. That is why I want you to spend as much time as you can with the notes. That's what I think. The watchword is keep on rocking, right? See you soon. Bye-bye.